Hello world, welcome to the latest OMB Policy Library demo. We're the team that's helping build this product out over the last few months. This is our bi-weekly sprint demo that we record and stream on YouTube, so you can share this, watch previous videos. If you look in the playlist after this is finished, you can always also send this link out to others if you want to show them some of the work that we're doing or see any of our past work. It's all recorded, shared, and open on the internet. I'm Will Sullivan, project manager, and the team is going to show a bunch of awesome work that we've been doing this week on the project. And let me share my slides, and we will get right into demo time. Okay. And yes, this is the end of Quadrefiore sprint. I'm not sure how to exactly pronounce that. I probably should look that up ahead of time, but we're doing it live. The conclusion of work on November 17th for the past 2 weeks. And into the sprint demo, I am going to toss it to Lenny now to talk about footnotes.
All right, can you see me?
You can see your slides, yes.
Okay, great. So I am going to go over the updates to the footnotes on the document page, as well as a number of style updates that we've made throughout the page. And these changes are live at the following link here, which you can see. And if you're watching a recorded version, this probably is going to already look different. But here we go. So one of the major changes that you can immediately see here is that the document page that we're working on is no longer a page that you have to go directly to see the content. Actually, you can access it in the policy list. And the document we've been working on as our reference is the M1619 document. And as you see here, this is linked. While our other documents are not linked, you can click on this working version. A couple of the changes that we've been implementing here are cleaning up the styling in typography, the vertical rhythm of the page, making it easier to read. And some of the major changes that we've added are the functionality of footnotes, how they look and how they behave, as well as a number of page elements, including the table and some other areas where the citations are noted. So immediately, what you notice, if you've seen this last time, is that this heading area is styled to be very visually impactful, but separate from the other content, following the design guides that Ryan created. And moving down, some of our most prominent features here are the footnotes. The citations here are now clickable. And as we desire, the footnote content opens up. And a couple things that you'll notice here are at any time, only one footnote can be open. And by clicking the citation, you can open and close this, or by clicking the close button, you can open and close this. But the value here of having one open at a time is we're providing the ability in the near future to be able to have a URL that's associated to a citation being open. So if someone's reading this and they want to show it to somebody else, they can show them the same visual layout that they're looking at. And a couple incredible things here is based on one of our teammates, a tool, we've been able to add a lot of accessibility features to these footnotes. So they're not just visually nice, but they actually work on screen readers. They open up and, as you can see, highlight as they would for different devices. And when the citation does open up and the footnotes displayed, the design that we're going with here is that the text here breaks and that the content here opens up. So this is the footnote, and I can't emphasize enough how significant the accessibility here is, given that the content is breaking in the middle of the markup. Having an accessible footnote is a difficult thing, but great given the project. Moving down a little bit, you'll notice a number of the visual, the treatment for the titles, as well as the subtitles, the headings are now set up to be as we wanted them to be. So this gold text here is new. And then moving down further, the treatment on the lists, both the numbers, the letters, both the numbered lists and then also the numbered lists that have indented content, as well as the bulleted lists, are designed to look the way that we want them to look. You'll see here the prominent bullets here before the list item. And moving down just a little bit more, apologize for the scrolling text. Another major change here is the table. This is a big deal because, as you know, we're copying a PDF, turning that into some kind of HTML data, and then re-rendering it. And not just the visual aesthetic here is being worked on, but the functionality behind the math equations, which you can see in the calculation column, as well as the footnotes that are actually rendering inside the table here, are pretty significant. So I'll draw attention to first the footnotes that are in the individual cells. Once these are clicked, notice citation 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28 here are all aggregated and collected inside the bottom of the table. So when one of these are clicked, rather than opening up inside the table, we're able to have a link, an anchor link that goes directly to the bottom of the table. This is a huge win and a big change. And an even bigger and significant change here is within the math markup here, we actually are able to render links, which again are embodied in the PDF that this content is originally representing. And although it's pretty difficult, we're able to create the link in the calculation, in the equation, that again links to the footnotes here. So just a huge win, not just a technical achievement, but a usability achievement, and something that you can see throughout the page. Going down further, just to the very bottom, as you can see, again, some more styles. The table is rendered in more list items. I'm gonna just jump to the bottom here. Finally, we have our footnotes, or the footnotes that are aggregated at the very end of the page, rather than just having the footnotes render in line with clickable citations. We have all of the footnotes for the page at the very bottom here, lined up, including those from the table, as well as all the other footnotes, are now collected here and styled appropriately. So as you can see, there's a lot of visual changes, functional changes, and even some technical significant changes. And they're all live at the link here. And I will pass it on to the next person. I'm not sure how much.
It goes to Austin, I believe, and I'm going to make him presenter now.
Great, cool. Can y'all see my screen?
Not at the moment. We see your smiling face.
Screen share. Here we go.
Yep. We see Medicine, the Noise Compliant Response Act.
Cool. Okay, cool. So here I'm new on the team. Hi, everybody. I just started as a interaction designer on what will be the back end of what Lenny just showed. So how policies will get turned into that beautiful layout that you see. So I guess this is my second week on the project. So I kind of wanted to go a little bit of background information of what I've been doing since I started. I have some of the design artifacts that I've worked on here on this page. But before that, I wanted to talk some about the background information that I've gotten from some of the stakeholders and from other technical people on the team to make sure that when I went into this project, it was with a good idea of what had been done before and what was technically feasible, and who some of our users are and how they would be interacting with uploading policy. So the first thing I did was look at some of the work that Bill had done on this mymadison.io where you're able to upload draft policies. The display is kind of similar to what we have right now, where you're able to see kind of feedback and comments and look at draft policies. I think it was like a really nice interface. I also took a look at some of the work that CM had done, technical perspective of identifying tools and some kind of text editor to be able to identify or label them as like a requirement in a body of text. Then it was kind of a task of how do we turn a policy like the M1619 into text that can then be set to a requirement or the display that you saw in Lenny's presentation. So I looked at this PDF to Markdown converter. You're able to turn a PDF into some text. This is the spit out of putting the M1619 into, I guess, XML and the display there. So getting all that background on what was technically feasible, I started making a user flow of how we would, how that workflow would work for someone who was uploading policy. This was like my preliminary sketch of understanding, and I took it to internal, to do some internal validation within the team of the design team and the development team. And then I started fleshing those out into more beautiful mock-ups. And as I got requirements and as I got feedback from the team, things started to make more sense. So the first flow that I had done before I'm taking this to people who would actually be using this, this workflow is just making sure that the development team believes that this is technically feasible and that this is kind of a good first start to start taking this out for a cognitive walkthrough or some kind of usability test. Basically how you would turn a policy like the M1619 into the display that Lenny showed earlier was an email invite into a system, an admin system, which is like a Django backend. And let me see if I can zoom in. So I just made these based off of some sketch files that already existed. To kind of mimic what we have here on this PDF to Markdown converter. Drag your PDF, system prompt of selecting a PDF. That PDF then gets turned into text, and that text is editable. Here I didn't have time to build out some of these screens, so it would just be a preview of what this spit out. So something similar to this. And then that would go into a success alert, and you can add a new policy or complete your task. The submit button on this preview screen would trigger an email to an approver or someone who would validate all of the text that had just been uploaded before it went live on a site. And that could look something like verify this, yes, no, go down the list. All of this stuff is TBD and just a way to get my head around what is technically feasible, what a workflow needs to look like in order to accomplish the task of uploading a PDF and getting it displayed on another part of the site. So that was kind of like a baseline approach. I also took a look at what we could accomplish if we had a more robust text editing software. So same flow. I I was thinking maybe we could do something where we could find requirements in the text a little bit in a second here about what he can do with computer learning, but it's not, he can't currently find in the text what a requirement would be. So I took that off, but these are kind of some of the learnings that I wanted to validate internally with the team before I took it to users to see how easy they had at the time of going through this system. And then I have like notes around here for myself to kind of validate with users of, if you're to leave this page, would you be able to save it as a draft? Can this auto save? How many requirements are going to be with each policy? Stuff like that. So again, like a preview screen and a success screen. So all of those I turned into mockups that I then put on InVision to kind of be able to have something to put in front of users when I start talking to them and figuring out like, what is the scope of some of these policies? How long are they going to be? What a workflow is of someone who's uploading this. Do they need to be able to distinguish what requirements are right away, or is that going to be someone else's task? All of that to just put something in front of users instead of asking them questions of what they would do. I think it's more useful if we have an idea of what is possible before we show it to users. So this is the flow on here. This is what the backend system looks like currently. And then also I started putting together this authoring tool research plan that details some of the methods that we'll be using, the objectives, recruiting people that we plan to recruit, and then a timeline. The results and outcomes is something that I'm working on after I got this finished. And I think that's it. I'm going to pass it to a tool for machine learning.
Hello, can folks hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, and actually, shoot, is it possible to, yeah, there we go. And then just the next slide after machine learning is the one that I just want to talk about. Yeah. So yeah, my name's Atul. This is, like Austin, this is basically my first week on the project. I'm actually a full stack developer, so I worked on some of the stuff that Lenny showed earlier. But one of the subject areas that I've been learning a lot about lately is machine learning. And so I was looking into a very simple application of it that could potentially improve the user experience during the import process, which Austin highlighted when he was going through the potential workflow. Basically, the format that the data that we have in the CSV is currently in made it really easy to create a simple classifier that just given requirement text. So assuming that a user has highlighted some text in a policy, just tries to figure out what kinds of topic areas like human capital, cloud, cybersecurity, etc. It can pertain to. And so using a pretty simple machine learning algorithm called logistic regression, we're able to predict those topics with about an 80% accuracy. And so that would allow us then to, yeah, essentially whenever the user highlights a requirement, then we could give them suggestions on what topics we think it might have, and then the user could sort of confirm or deny those as needed. Yeah, so it's just like a very, very simple sort of convenience kind of use of machine learning. But that said, I think that with the right data, we could potentially look into actually being able to tell what are potential requirements within a policy, so that the user might not even have to manually highlight what they think are requirements. Potentially, I'm basically going to look into that and just see how feasible it is. And then I think that's basically about it. If you want any more details on the simple classifier, you can just go to that link. It's a Jupyter notebook that has all the code in it and stuff like that. Yeah, back to you, Will.
Awesome. And with a heavy heart, we're going to toss it to Micah. This is his last demo with us. He's been with us for almost a year now, and just an amazing teammate, multi-skilled. So Micah, take it away.
Awesome, great. Let me know if you cannot see my screen or if there's any issues in what I am saying and doing. Yeah, so let me go through some more design updates. So this is probably the first foray that folks are seeing into kind of what we're calling a parallel path, or what's referred to as a parallel path, in ways where up until pretty much this sprint, or maybe a bit of the sprint before, we've been working strictly on the user-facing side. And you're seeing the amazing work that Austin and Atul, and with contributions from the rest of the team, are doing on the admin side of it. So you'll likely see more of this moving forward. But we did want to make sure to talk about some design updates as well that went through. See full policy text, issue 529. I'm just making these issues available because there's many more images that are related to it. Ryan has done some amazing work cranking out designs for all of this. This is just a snapshot of the full M1619 and all the different ways that the engineering group has been trucking away at getting these changes. As Lenny showed earlier, they've been making amazing progress. As part of the sprint, the first half of the sprint, Ryan was able to solidify a lot of these design elements to a place where they can be pushed forward. So this one's specifically about seeing the full policy. So this, I won't click through, but you can totally go to the GitHub repo and 527 and see the full design of that, accounting for everything, which has been fantastic work. Also, briefly thinking of how an anchor link to a paragraph. So as we know, the main way that, or the initial lift that we're going to have for sharing this information is sharing to a paragraph with folks. So if someone has a paragraph, there's eventually we'll be able to denote requirements within that, but in the initial efforts of this is to have a link to this area to where people can share that. You can see this is what a user flow looks like for a person, particularly in this case mobile, because we're accounting for many different ways. There's not a hover state within some of that. So this is when you're clicking on it, when it's been copied to your clipboard, and then when you can share it off. And I believe, actually, let's see, let me know if you cannot see the link that I'm going to. I'm actually going to the issue because there is, here it is on a desktop. And I'm going to fly through these just so we make the best use of our time. But here's also when a user comes to a policy. After clicking, this is the treatment that they will receive, letting them know, like, this is what you've been sent to. Here's where you are. A little bit of debate about how the interaction is going to happen after that, but here it is also on mobile. Whether it's going to stick around, maybe it'll fade out, because we don't want to disrupt the reading experience, but we do want to let them know where they are. So going back here, I'll move on to the next item here, which has been the paragraph requirements, the design for M1619. Oh boy, yeah, that's the correct, yeah, issue number 619. That threw me off for a second. So this is an example of when you do see a requirement. So in this example here, within this paragraph, this has been marked in some way, shape, or form, or said this is a requirement. So this is a way that we're showing to the user, this is an element that is a requirement. This is kind of an initial pass at it. all of these things I should say, and I meant to preface, we are going to be putting in front of users, testing out all of this. I don't want to say it goes without saying, because I feel like it's always good to remind ourselves of that. But all of these things we're going to be validating this specifically to make sure that it's clear for users to know, like, what is this? There's a treatment here of having a highlight, but we also need to think of accessibility about doing something that's just beyond color. So having a star or some sort of icon or thing that does this. I should also say, and I meant to preface, I am definitely speaking for Ryan on all this, because as Will mentioned, this is my final sprint here, and this has been a lot of work that Ryan is doing. I'm just presenting for Ryan because he was unable to be with us today. This here is another one about the header real estate. So the current iteration of it, it was, as alluded to in the title, is a bit of a real estate sale. There was kind of a lot going on. It was distracting for users. I am going to say that we are on hold with this design. They're not final. We're going to change where the document navigation and search, some of those kinds of things is more clear as we talk about the whole library-wide functions, about the whole element. But this is an initial pass that Ryan did to kind of mitigate some of the large call-outs, some call to actions, and how people can continue to search, be informed that this is a beta site, and also how we can make sure that the header is accounted for and available for people to see, but not intrusive of the reading experience, which for us is the #1 priority. So again, this one's not an implementation. It's going to go through a testing phase and may even get tabled slightly as we think about the site larger, because we're really focusing on M1619. And as Will alluded to, I just wanted to say I fare thee well to folks. This is my last sprint with this group. It's been a pleasure being with you, and who doesn't like a horse shot out of a cannon? So I thought I'd put that on permanent record. And also say that it's been a pleasure working with this group for, I think you're right, Will. It might be close to a year. And I don't really like to say goodbye, because I have a strong feeling that this is going to be running for a while, and maybe even I can talk my way into coming back. But it also gives me personal comfort to know that between Atul, Austin, Ryan, you're in fantastic hands. But it also brings me personal comfort to know that it takes 3 people to fill my role. Kidding. That's why I'm a horse being shot out of a cannon. Okay, thanks very much. I'm going to pass it back over to Will.
Yes, excellent. Okay. So yes, our next demo will be in 2 weeks on Friday, December 1st. We have the Thanksgiving holiday week, so it'll be a little bit of reduced production, I guess, but we will hopefully see you on the internet then. And now we're going to jump to our call-in session, where you can go ahead and close this YouTube stream. The number is on the screen in the box number 2. Just dial in on any telephone and enter that conference line, and we'll discuss some of the work done, take feedback, thoughts, guidance on what we should work on in the next 2 weeks. And that will inform our plans for sprint planning this afternoon. And so hop on in, and I'll keep this slide up for a little bit so you can dial in. Whoops, let me back up one. Psych. Yeah, so we'll talk to you on the phone line. Oh, why do I keep clicking this? Okay. See you on the phone or on the internet. Have a happy Thanksgiving.